A warm welcome, dear honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. Today is a very special episode of our Envision Business Talk, one that will enlighten us with great insights and inspiration on the future of women in business. What makes today's event even more special is that it's in partnership with We Connect International, and we are very proud to announce that Envision Partnership is now certified by We Connect International, which is a leading organization, nonprofit, working extensively in connecting women-owned businesses to global and regional supply chains. And joining us today to moderate this important discussion is none other but its CEO and co-founder, Ms. Elizabeth Vazquez, who is a world leader in women's economic empowerment and global supplier diversity and inclusion. She is the co-author of the book Buying for Impact: How to Buy from Women and Change Our World. She sits on several boards of directors and councils, including the Procter& Gamble Supplier Diversity Advisory Council. She rang the bell at the New York Stock Exchange in 2019 in support of women business owners around the world and is a W20 representative to advance G20 commitments. She also served as a member of the UN Secretary General's High Level Panel on Women's Economic Empowerment. Elizabeth is an advisor to a long list of corporates, governments, and multilateral leaders. She has served as a trainer and guest lecturer on international trade and gender inclusive growth to graduate students at several international business schools and universities. Welcome, Elizabeth. Our main discussion point for the day will be the critical role for women-owned business that they play in the post-COVID economic recovery, and how it's now more important than ever to empower women and pursue a more diverse and inclusive economy. Helping us to shed light on the matter are our experts' voices of Claire Getchouki, Global Social Procurement Manager, Supplier Equity, Diversity and Inclusion at Unilever. Claire is an experienced supply chain and procurement professional with over a decade of experience in FMCG and tech industries with various roles with Unilever, including Kenya and Ethiopia. Her purpose to bring harmony, fruitfulness, and beauty into others' lives, and with this, she is passionate about nature and giving back to the needy. Welcome, Claire. Cheryl Hofmeister, Supplier Diversity and Inclusion Lead at Organon. Cheryl's procurement career spans over 15 years of experience with several multinational organizations, currently holding the Global Supplier Diversity position at Organon, where she works to develop and grow relationships with current diverse suppliers to identify and act on expanded opportunities. Cheryl is an advocate of strengthening the voices of all individuals within a company or a community through listening, empowering, and shared leadership. Welcome, Cheryl. It's a pleasure to have you. And we have Amber St. John, Manager Global Supplier Diversity and Economic Inclusion at Mondelez International. Amber is a young talent with more than 10 years of multi-sector experience. Her passion for helping people is at the center of her work. She wears many hats and touches different areas of the organizations that she worked with. The core of her work has been to build and put structure around corporate social responsibility and diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Welcome, Amber. So let's welcome our dear guests. Hello, everyone. And I would like to give the floor to Elizabeth, our great moderator. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for being with us today.
Thank you, Dr. Bader, and the entire Envision team for bringing us together for a conversation on women-owned businesses and the critical role they play in the global economic recovery. It's an honor to be with this esteemed panel of experts from Mondelez, Organon, and Unilever. There are, several discussion points that we could focus on, but we decided we wanted to focus on the fact that globally Women own a third of the world's private businesses, but they tend to run smaller businesses compared to men. The COVID crisis has really exacerbated gender inequality across the world, and GEM reports show that women are more deeply impacted by the pandemic than their male counterparts, in part because of the multiple responsibilities they have running their businesses and their homes. As a result, the women are having to very quickly pivot, build resiliency, apply a lot of flexibility. Fortunately, all the multitasking women are accustomed to, and their expert communications to different family members, team players, community members has really helped many of those women survive and thrive in the current environment. Many of the women entrepreneurs have successfully adapted to the disruptions, and there's a lot we can learn from them. We Connect International has done a report, and we found that the vast majority of the women-owned businesses we work with across 130 countries have been negatively impacted. But the ones that have survived have done it because they have very quickly innovated and identified huge gaps in the market where, because of their passion and their expertise and the resources they have in front of them, they were able to develop new products and new services that could help all of our communities survive this very uncertain time of tragedy, and also in the new business opportunities it creates because of these newly identified needs. It also helps small businesses have an opportunity when there has been so much supply chain disruption that large organizations have to look at local resources, small businesses that can fill in the gaps when they don't have access to the products or services they're used to. So this goes back to why it's so important for large organizations and organizations of all size to diversify their options, to make sure they have lots of choice. And right now, women-owned businesses represent about 1% of the spend on products and services. So women are technically invisible in global value chains. But this is why this untapped, underutilized resource is so powerful if we can make it as easy as possible for buyers to find these women-owned businesses. And that's what We Connect does. And you're going to hear about some of that because we're a nonprofit global organization made up of some of the most innovative and forward-thinking corporations, multilaterals, and increasingly governments from around the world that care deeply about how they spend their money and making sure that some of that money is spent with the women-owned businesses of the world. So it's really an honor to get to hear from each of these experts to talk about what is happening at this particular moment in time and the role of women and in creating value within their organization. So I'd love to turn it over to the panel members to tell us about your company and your industry, and what are the specific ways that your company has been impacted by the pandemic. And I'm hoping Claire from Unilever can get us started. Claire?
Hi, Elizabeth. So thank you very much for the question. And again, thank you to Nairuz for inviting us to be part of this panel. So just jumping straight onto the question, a little bit about Unilever. So Unilever is a global company with a turnover of about 51 billion euros as at 2020. We operate in nearly every country in the world. If I can count, about over 90 markets that we operate in currently. We are home to many of the world's favorite brands, from home care products such as Surf, such as Omo, beauty and personal care products such as Axe, we have Dove, we have Lux, food and refreshment products such as Magnum, Knorr, we have Walls, Ben & Jerry's. We have a very wide range of products, and every day 2.5 billion people use Unilever products, right? with so many issues plaguing our world today, we do realize that we cannot stand by and wait for change to happen. Hence the crafting of our purpose, which we all at Unilever stand by, which is to make sustainable living commonplace, where our focus is not only on profit to our shareholders, but on people and on planet as well. In terms of the challenges that we have faced in our business due to the current pandemic, we have witnessed explosive rises in the global inflation, leading to astronomical pressures on cost, on commodity costs, on service costs, on all the costs, both local and global. Supply disruptions as a result of shortages in shipping lines, logistic drivers laying down their tools in various parts of the world, therefore plaguing our logistics, resulting in material shortages and further pressure on costs, right? In some of our factories as well, we have had to shut down our factories for certain periods of time because of COVID-19 infections. And I can call out South Africa, I can call out India as such of those markets where we had to stop our production for a while because of the rising infections. A negative challenge that we have faced that we can at least frame positively is the change in consumer shopping behaviors, where because of reduced retail footfall as a result of lockdowns and consumers being wary about venturing outside, we have seen quite an astronomical increase or rise in e-commerce and shopping at home, which we have, of course, capitalized on, and we have seen quite some tremendous growth in our e-commerce business so far. Thank you, Liz.
Wow, that's a lot, Claire. You have your hands full, and we're grateful for the leadership that Unilever is demonstrating at these very uncertain times. Amber, tell us about Mondelez and what you're doing at this challenging time.
Yeah, sure. And hi, everyone. Thank you again. It's genuinely an honor to be here today. I feel quite humbled to be able to, sit next to Elizabeth, Claire, Cheryl. So thank you. So Mondelez International, we're a CPG company with brands such as Oreo, Cadbury, Tang, Toblerone. And as a snacking company, I think that our goal is very simple. We're here to empower people to snack right. So we're on a mission to, lead the future of snacking by offering the right snack for the right moment, made the right way. And I think really when we focus on that right way is where we're able to see our economic inclusion and supplier diversity really woven into that. And while it's woven into all of, the strains, the pieces of our organization, we thrive in that space. And we've, really been challenging ourselves to spend with purpose. And you'll hear me, probably say that a couple of times today. But despite like tremendous growth and connecting with our consumers through digital and e-commerce investment and trying to be extremely intentional about making sure that we're responding to the needs of our global consumers, I would be remiss if I didn't say that we have been impacted by the supply chain challenges and by, the pandemic and stay-at-home orders and all of those things. However, I and Mondelez really do believe that this has offered us an opportunity to challenge ourselves to continuously think differently and creative about who and how we're sourcing. It's allowed us the opportunity to really refocus and realign to our mission and our vision and, make sure that we reflect on the snacks made right and that it's inclusive and representative of the diversity of our consumers and our people. Our makers, our bakers. And, we really believe that this is the way out of some of those supply chain challenges that we've been facing and that we really will probably be continuing to face, for the foreseeable future. But ensuring that we have the investment and alignment with, enhancing our supply base with women and diverse-owned suppliers has really been a fundamental part of 2020, 2021, and just moving forward. So thank you.
Amber. Thank you. That also, just like Cheryl, just like Claire, super impressive. And I have enjoyed snacking healthy with Mondelez. So thank you. That actually does have an impact on the COVID situation when you're at home, having healthy options. And I'm just so grateful to Unilever and to Mondelez for what you're doing to make sure that women-owned businesses can help you anticipate the needs of the people of the world, especially the women who are, feeding others, and making sure everyone stays healthy and safe and looking great and smelling great. So really powerful conversations here with major players impacting our day-to-day lives. And speaking of really, powerful leadership, Cheryl, big congrats on Organon as a new company. That is such a big deal. Tell us about your mission.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Elizabeth. So firstly, thank you to the entire Envision team for having me here today, and of course the We Connect team and Elizabeth. So thank you so much. So yes, we actually opened during the pandemic, and we're practically 6 months old, if I can say that. So Organon is actually a global healthcare company formed through the spinoff from Merck, known as MSD, outside of the US and Canada, with a mission to deliver impactful medicines and solutions for a healthier every day. We build upon our strong foundation of more than 60 medicines and other products across a range of areas, including reproductive health, heart disease, dermatology, allergies, and asthma. At Organon, we believe in a better and healthier every day for every woman. And we understand that women are foundational to a healthier world. And as a new company, we will begin by listening to women's healthcare needs, big and small, enabling us to develop treatments tailored to them, because we know there's so much more we can do for women and their health. We are approximately a 6.5 billion global healthcare company with an impactful portfolio of medicines and products across a range of therapeutic areas.
Wow, Cheryl, thank you so much for helping to keep us healthy, especially right now. You said that women are fundamental to a healthier world, and many of your customers will be women. So, is giving women an equal opportunity part of your business model as well?
Yes, absolutely. So we believe the diversity of our business obviously provides a sustainable engine of growth, so we can continue to invest in and advance new medicines and treatments for women that are so urgently needed. Our business is comprised of three core pillars, which is our women's health, our biosimilars, and our established brands, with an international footprint that serves people in more than 140 markets. Nearly 80% of our business is outside of the United States. So we believe that diversity makes us stronger, and diversity runs through everything Organon does, from our products to our people, to our leadership, and our geographic footprint. Our highly capable board is diverse, comprised of 70% of women, the most gender diverse of all healthcare companies in the S&P 500. So given our global footprint, we are well positioned, to be a partner of choice, and Organon will bring an entrepreneurial focus, rooting out opportunities wherever they are, around the world, and leveraging diverse strategies to deliver growth for the company and impact for women and patients all over the world.
Amazing. Thank you, Cheryl, again, for helping to keep us all healthy. It's super impressive and exciting what's happening with the spinoff, and I'm really grateful for the leadership, especially with how you engage with women as part of your key strategy. And speaking of that, I'd like to ask Claire and Amber about how exactly you work with women-owned businesses. Claire?
Thanks, Liz. So first of all, I'd like to tell you a little bit about our supplier diversity program. So Unilever has been in existence for a lot of years. However, our global supplier diversity program was only launched in January of 2021. In January of 2021, we launched a commitment stating that by the year 2025, we will spend 2 billion euros with diverse businesses globally. And of course, women consist of a majority of these diverse businesses. right? So what we have done first is to first identify who our diverse suppliers are by launching a global baselining activity, right? So that we can identify who are our existing women-owned businesses in our supply chain, and thereafter craft some strategies and programs around how to develop them, as well as how to increase the representation of women-owned businesses in our database. We are very keen to continue our partnership with WeConnect to seek out, to develop, to advocate for women-owned businesses in our key pilot markets, as well as our new markets as we continue to expand our program around the world. In certain priority markets, we are also working with the UN chapter of ITC She Trades to identify, to design capability building programs, advocacy approaches, where we believe that Unilever's thought leadership will be important to propel forward the gender inclusive procurement programs to government and to other corporates. We are continuing to expand our program progressively, and the Middle East, specifically Dubai and Saudi Arabia, will soon be coming into scope. So we are very much excited about that, and yeah, we are really pumped up about the progress that we have made so far in seeking out women-owned businesses and developing them and increasing our spend with them. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Super impressive, very specific strategies where you're currently working and the vision for where you're going, which is really exciting to be able to do that with you. Amber, would love to hear from you on this.
Absolutely. Claire, you and I are going to have to sit and have a conversation, because Mondelez and Unilever are very much on the same journey and moving on quite similar timelines. But you know, to give a little bit more context about the program here at Mondelez, we had a North America program for a number of years, which gave us a really strong foundation working with organizations such as WeBank and MSDC. It really allowed us, you know, like I said, to have a good foundation going into a global program. So in late 2020, our CEO made a very public announcement that our program was going global. And with that global program came a $1 billion spend commitment with diverse suppliers by the year 2024, which is really exciting for us because Mondelez is a very global company. So it really only made sense that our supplier diversity program was global as well. And, you know, with that commitment, we've realized that, you know, very similar to Claire, that a lot of that the money that we'll be spending with diverse suppliers will be women. So it's been extremely important that we invest strategically in those relationships and, you know, understanding what our supply base looks like and then how we can grow it. And through that, I mean, we've had massive success outside of North America. EMEA was one of our largest regions for supplier diversity this year. So that was extremely exciting to see. I mean, they blew their targets out of the water. Which was, you know, quite humbling to sort of reflect on. But, you know, as everybody on this call knows in the audience, is that diverse suppliers, they're innovative, they're agile, they're able to quickly respond, efficiently respond, and they're usually cost competitive as well. So it really only makes sense for us, you know, as we look at 2021 and the years ahead and how we're going to get to that $1 billion and beyond, that we are investing in our women and diverse owned businesses. And, you know, like I said, we saw, you know, massive growth and found a lot of spend within our EMEA region. So it's been quite intentional that we look to continue developing that space. And I would be, you know, wrong if I didn't mention that WeConnect International is a cornerstone of developing our global program. You know, we've been lucky enough to have WeConnect speak on a number of our awareness weeks, which have been really important to driving education and awareness within Mondelez. We've had the opportunity, you know, in turn to participate in various events like this, in regional events, which has been extremely helpful for us to gather that leadership support and visibility within Mondelez. And it also, like Cheryl said, it gives us the opportunity to really listen and ensure that we're connecting and responding appropriately to the needs of our women-owned suppliers. So it's really just, it's a perfect combination for a successful program moving forward. So we're extremely appreciative of, you know, the resources and opportunities that exist within WeConnect and, you know, just throughout. So thank you.
Thank you, Amber. It's really a joy to work with you and your team. And Claire and your team. But Amber, I'm just curious, how have those women-owned businesses contributed to your company's success during the pandemic specifically?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I have really good examples of that, that I was quite excited to sort of get to see happen and then learn about happening. So the first one is, as we know, we've experienced supply chain limitations, right, which has impacted the business. But the first one is during the peak of COVID in 2020, we had a women-owned business out of South Africa, out of Port of Elizabeth in South Africa. They stepped in quickly and efficiently, and they were able to transport our workers to the plants, which was extremely important because it allowed us to not experience some of those disruptions. And I know I just said it, but they were able to come on quickly and efficiently, which was extremely important. And I think that despite challenges that they might have been facing, we never experienced that. And I think that's really important to call out, is that we're not the only ones that are experiencing these supply chain disruptions, and our women-owned businesses are able to still experience them and, meet and exceed our needs. And, with that example, we found through benchmarking that not only did we get fantastic feedback on them from the plant, but they were actually more cost competitive than some of the larger players in the space. So we're looking to definitely continue and hopefully expand that relationship moving forward. And then the other example is actually out of North America, but extremely important to mention as well. So from introduction to invoice took about 6 months, which a lot of us know is really not that long. And this was, pretty much June to now, and they're a pallets company. And they were able to, start supplying us with pallets. And that's something that happened, this year. Introduction was over the summer, and we've already started doing business with them now. So, with both of those examples, we had a critical need, and our women-owned businesses were able to respond quickly, efficiently, with cost competitiveness, to those needs that we had, while still sort of on the back end with their businesses, working to, overcome challenges that we are similarly facing. So it's just really awesome to see. And I think that those are two examples, but there's many more, and will continue to be many more. So yeah, it's been great.
Amber, those are awesome examples of how women are competing. If you just give them an equal opportunity, they can compete on total value, including price. So we all know that, but you're making sure it happens, and you can document how this is happening. And I'm just curious for Claire, how have those women-owned businesses that you were talking about contributed to your company's success during the pandemic?
Thank you, Liz. Like Amber has mentioned, we really do have some really great examples from around the world where women have responded to our needs quite effectively and efficiently throughout this COVID-19 period. I can quite quickly recall an example in Nairobi, Kenya, where a women-owned business was onboarded as our COVID-19 medical testing provider in our factory. This is at a period of time where, COVID-19 testing was very rare in Kenya, and they were able to, come in, set up their facilities, and provide COVID-19 testing kits, provide a team of medical technicians to run the daily testings in our factory. Yeah. We also have an example from a very good example from Dubai, a supplier called AMS International. We have had a decade-long relationship with them. However, during this COVID-19 period, they were able to launch a successful promoter program, right, that supports women 100% with employment opportunities. And the success of this promoter program during this COVID-19 period has resulted in greater awareness of Unilever products, and has shown how strict safety protocols in the workplace can still result to business as usual. And this supplier has actually been a very good example to other companies in Dubai of how business can continue as usual. Opportunities for innovation can still be available even during this COVID-19 period. We have examples like Mirtrans, who is one of our largest logistics provider in Uruguay and Mexico. And despite the COVID-19 challenges that they are facing, they were still able to come to us with a proposal around partnership on electric tracking, right? Which is another opportunity that we are leveraging currently. Those are just some of the few examples that we have had, but like I mentioned, there are many others. And if I had a little bit more time, I would be able to name multiple more. Yeah.
That's fascinating, Claire, because I think too often people just assume that women just have the most amazing handicraft businesses, and there's nothing wrong with handicrafts. We love artisans and craft, the art of craft, and yet women are in every sector, and they have businesses of all sizes in every country. And you're just giving example after example, all of you, of the power of the role of women when they own businesses and can contribute and compete equally for your business. So Claire, what are the barriers that women-owned businesses are facing to make even more of a contribution to the recovery within their communities and globally?
So the barriers are many, and some of these barriers are systemic and they are long-standing. And some of the barriers that I can think of top of mind are access to capital and funding. There are reports that show that there is inequitable distribution of capital for women-owned businesses. I can recall a recent example in one of our markets where we onboarded a women-owned business manufacturer who manufactures post-consumer recycled plastics. But one of her greatest concerns during onboarding was not how she would be able to deliver in terms of quality. One of her concerns was whether we would be able to forego our relatively long-standing credit days and pay her in advance so that she is able to meet our commitments and meet our deliveries. So access to capital is one of the largest, if not the largest, challenges or barriers that women-owned businesses face. Another barrier that I can think around is access to capability building. There is a lot of requirement to upskill these suppliers to be able to meet our requirements. There is the barrier to access to procurement opportunities as well as understanding of our procurement processes and company requirements. We come from very large organizations where a long list of requirements are needed before onboarding a supplier. Amber has talked about a 6-month lead time for onboarding a supplier. And recent surveys have shown that this is one of the largest gaps as well that we face. Exactly. So the question that I would like to answer is, what then is Unilever's plans to help women-owned businesses to jump over some of these barriers? What we are doing is working on our documentation and processes to make them simpler, simplify them for these groups. We are also hoping to launch some capability building programs and online learning platform that will be free and accessible to all. And we are also working and engaging with a number of the banks that we are in partnership with to offer special supplier financing rates to some of these women-owned businesses as well as diverse groups, just to give a level playing field to all and enable everybody to thrive in this situation or environment that we are currently operating in.
Wow, Claire, that's a long list of barriers, and it's also a long list of solutions where you're building the ecosystem and help working public sector, private sector, civil society, because we have to make sure that all people who want to start and grow a business have an opportunity to deliver their solutions to our problems. And so I'm, grateful for what you and the other panel members are doing. And I'm curious from Cheryl's perspective, what do you see are the barriers that women-owned businesses are facing to making the contribution that we all need them to make quite desperately, actually? Not so much that, we're trying to help these women. The fact is, they need to help us. So yes. I would love to understand from your perspective, Cheryl.
Absolutely. So I'll add on to what Claire just said. I think some additional barriers is really balancing responsibilities. So if we think of women, when we talk about balancing, is, we have families we're taking care of, we have children, we have spouses, partners, that we're taking care of, our animals we're taking care of, and parents. And not just that, I think we take care of society. We take care of our neighborhoods, the areas that we live in. We play such a vital role. And so besides that is emotional support. We go through so much, and I think we think on both sides of our brain, right? We say that we multitask, we're doing so much of things that continuously keep us busy. And one of the things that we actually, through our ERGs, actually, we are doing almost like a quiet time, starting 8 o'clock in the morning for 15 minutes, where you maybe just do some meditation, some yoga, just to kind of like get you into the zone and just to forget about everything that is, suppressing, or that is, pressing you down, or all the worries and everything else that we, have to deal with. And then I think besides that, even though we are taking care of family and everything else, and our emotions get the better of us sometimes, because we think we're not good enough, we're not strong enough. And, we always think we first have to be able to do something before we can do it. And so I think that's where it comes in, the fear of failure, right? The fear of really thinking big, to where we can think outside the box. And I think, like I said, just listening, to Amber and to Claire, the amazing things that all our organizations are trying to do around the world. And then, of course, the biggest one is the gender inequality. Again, to where we see women are not being equally treated. And I think that goes across the globe. So at Organon, we want a global supplier diversity program that enables advancing gender equity, of course. And as part of our 5-year goal is to increase our women-owned suppliers that is fit for purpose, of course. And then difficult categories for us, finding WBEs is in the pharma space, right? That's an area that really hasn't really been tapped into from a woman's perspective. And so when I think of our manufacturing and our research and development, those are really areas that we really need to, educate our women-owned businesses so that they have the same opportunity, to participate. And then in addition, besides the medicines, actually, we are now also looking into devices, diagnostic tools and other technologies. So what women are out there that are developing technologies that's finding ways to deal with all the issues, or the women's issues that we have, whether it be health or, just our day-to-day things. And like I said, we want the women to be holistically healthy, from head to toe, emotions and everything else. We want to make sure that she's as healthy as she can be. I'll also add that WBEs play a driving role in defining our green future. That's another area I think that women don't really get into is the green, right? So this means like we need to really support women in the financing of really understanding and learning more about, the green technologies and so forth, training them and giving them access to sustainability and the sourcing, of procurement as well. And I would encourage our viewers and our listeners, as a national member of WeConnect, they really there to support you, and to help you connect with us. So I encourage you today to register, become a member of the WeConnect international community, because really that is where, opportunity is being connected. This is the organization we come to, and we heavily, since we're only 6 months old, we heavily going to be dependent on WeConnect to help us globally, and as we continue to grow our program. And again, as I mentioned earlier, our program is primarily global. So I encourage you today to really become members of WeConnect, because this is the organization we come to ask for those WBAs.
Thank you so much for that, Cheryl. All of that is very inspiring and encouraging. And obviously, we all need men to continue to make the powerful contributions they make, non-binary people to make the contributions they make. And specific to this conversation, Cheryl, I wanted to pull out a little bit more at the industry level. How do you see women-owned businesses contributing to this global recovery?
Yes, so for me, I see women, they use their resources to reinvest in the health, in the education, the well-being of their families, the local communities. And women-owned businesses, their revenues really invigorates our local economies, right? So we think again, when we do business with women-owned businesses, they in return can hire other women that can now, go home and bring money home, and they can spend back in the community. And that is where, we create that economic impact effect where by employing our women. And we have a saying actually at Organon is we say that when she rises, we all rise. So I think, it's so important to have women be a part of the whole supply chain.
I love it because it's so true. Everything you've said, everything that each of the panel members, all of you have said is spot on. And we desperately need everyone to contribute to their full potential and to have equal opportunity to win our business. I know we have some fantastic members in the audience who are participating today. So should I turn this over to you, Dr. Bader, to help us address any of the questions?
Yes, sure. We'll be just looking at the portal and to catch the questions that we have. Wonderful insight. Thank you so much, everybody. So the first question we have is, what do you believe are the challenges specifically faced by women-owned businesses during the pandemic and economic crisis?
I'd like to answer if possible. So I think on top of, bias that we face and, having to bust a lot of myths. I mean, it's a part of the education that we're constantly doing, is really enlightening the organization that women own businesses. They're global, they're competitive. It's not a part of corporate social responsibility. This isn't, a DE&I quota that we're looking to make. This really is to enhance our supply chain. But I think that women-owned businesses are facing a lot of the same challenges that the corporates are facing. It might look different, but I think that we're all sort of facing the same challenges. So some of the responsibility that, we as supplier diversity professionals have to take is, communicating that to the business, but also really, dispelling some of those myths that women-owned businesses are global, that, they can compete, that they provide innovation and agility, to us. And I think another layer that we have to do as well is ensure that when opportunities, do come up, that they're already a part of our supply chain. So it's really taking that proactive approach instead of being reactive. So I think it's just, it's sort of looking at it, a whole picture to just ensure that our supply chain looks like our consumers as well.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to what Amber is saying. I also think part of it is the development within different sectors, right? So again, in the pharma and the healthcare space is really not knowing how to do business with us. So one of the things we're doing at Organon is I'm going to be working with a team internally to create our own development program. So instead of going to a university, maybe develop things around our manufacturing, and our research and development and our clinical researchers. So those are the things that I'm really focused on. And one of the things that we also want to do is find an opportunity within the women's health space to where we only bring women in to solve for, where we only hear the voices of the women. And so that is something we're really, really focused on. And the last thing I'll maybe say is sometimes we really need to break the barriers with our stakeholders. It's the internal barriers as well. And so how can we partner and be a little proactive? So one of the things that I want to do is really be proactive with all of our different divisions and say, what is their objective, right? And so when I can plug myself into their objective, and say, hey, I can come to WeConnect and I can find suppliers, in this space. It's really convincing our stakeholders that women can just be agile and they can bring solution and they can save money. So really it's busting the myth of that, diverse or women-owned businesses, they can't do it. And so again, it's really building those relationships. And I know sometimes, we eager to want to do business, but I think sometimes things takes a little bit of time. And so for me, really, I'm on a journey to really, build those relationships internally, understand their objectives so that our outcome is more business-based, right? Versus just saying we adding, our women-owned businesses, but in addition, this is really what they solved for, and then create that as highlights throughout the organization. And really, I'm trying to also leverage our ERG groups to where I can partner with all of them to even distribute the word even more, because I think when we can internally partner and we say it's everybody's responsibility, I'm just the facilitator, it's not my responsibility, it's really the entire organization. And I think that is where, we'll be able to get more women-owned businesses into our organizations.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for this great insights. Elizabeth, we have an exciting question for you, and I'm trying to hold back my horses not to jump and answer. So for WeConnect International, such a noble initiative, of course, are you already present in the Middle East?
So we are working on that. The good news is women-owned businesses can register for free on the WeConnectInternational.org website. This is the website that these corporations and other corporations and multilaterals and governments use to try to find women-owned businesses that can supply products and services. I think getting to work with the Envision team, Dr. Bader, you in particular, and your leadership and passion for making sure that the women who own businesses in the Middle East aren't left out of this incredible network across 130 countries, and so many powerful, the largest buyers in the world. These are the leaders in all of their industry sectors, and all of them are looking for women suppliers who can anticipate and meet their needs and their consumers' needs if they're consumer facing. So it's an exciting time to be a woman-owned business. And in the Middle East, we would love to be working with a lot more women who own businesses. So we want you to register so that we have the start we need to be able to start to hire local experts to help us deliver certification, training, outreach, and make sure that no one is left behind. So thanks for the question. And Dr. Bader, if you want to add to it, I'd love it, or anyone else.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, from our own experience, I would like to add that this is exactly what we've done. So WeConnect International, there are two parts. One part where you can register irrelevant if you are certified or not. Just once you submit your documentation, you will be as part of the network and accessible by, those amazing, powerful buyers, as a sample of what we have here. But the other part, which is once the official, if you will, office or chapter is set on ground, then they start to certify the business, where you go through very thorough evaluation to be able to be certified. So we started initially by registering through the network, and actually this is how we've got engaged in several exciting conversations. And thank you so much for Elizabeth and the whole team. So even before a certification, we were able to have an accessibility, I would say, and interactions, and we were able to attend some of the great webinars and trainings and even one-on-one meetings with buyers, which was very, very useful and helpful. However, for the certification, we were able to do this for our Canadian entity, because this is where already the office is established. But, we're hoping that WeConnect International very soon will be able to be here on ground. But like what Elizabeth mentioned, so it's we need two to tango. So the more women-owned business register, the more power we'll have to be able to pull WeConnect International and have them here in the Middle East. So we need you to be vocal, to be present, it's very simple process to do, just to register online. And I highly encourage you from our own experience.
And Patricia Langen is the person responsible on our team for the Middle East and is very passionate about the powerful role the women in the region play and the huge opportunity for the world to get through this pandemic if only we are listening and engaging to the women in the Middle East. So it's an exciting time, and I don't know, I mean, our panel members are equally passionate about finding these women-owned businesses from all over the world. You've heard these are global businesses doing business in most markets of the world. It's impressive, and it's an exciting time to be a woman in the world.
Wonderful. For Cheryl and Claire and Amber, your institutions are ahead of many institutions. What kind of advice for global and local institutions to do so we can accelerate the support of this cause?
Well, I can go. What I would love to encourage all corporates is, regardless of their size, regardless of their spend, regardless of their location, to already start testing, to start experimenting and activating the concept of diversity and inclusion. This is both in the workplace as well as within their supply chains, for the benefit of their business, for the benefit of diverse businesses, and for the benefit of society. As we rebuild a global post-COVID economy, we really must continue to invest in women-owned businesses and make sure that they are not left behind as we build a more resilient and a more inclusive global economy. Like everyone has said, encouraging that all corporates, all women-owned businesses join WeConnect to learn, to share, to grow more, and to just join this global movement, because it really is a good time for women-owned businesses to be women-owned businesses.
Thank you, Claire. And I just want to note that one of the participants asked if it's mandatory to be a part of the WeConnect network. And I just want to be clear, it's absolutely not mandatory. These corporations buy from suppliers from all backgrounds, all over the world, all the time. Before WeConnect, with WeConnect, and I'm sure will forever be inclusive in their sourcing practices. The point of WeConnect International, the reason we were created by the corporations, is just to make that process easier, because it can be hard as a woman-owned business to have to register as a supplier with all of the biggest brands in the world. And so the biggest brands came together and said, well, let's just try to have at least one global database we can search to quickly find what we're looking for, regardless of country or size or sector or product or service. So just, gratitude for the leadership that these members demonstrate every day in being inclusive, not just in how they run their business, but in how they spend their money.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Another question that we have from the audience. Some people think supporting women is a charity cause. How can we make them shift their mindset that it's a business matter, not a charity matter?
Yeah, that's something that I think comes up a lot. And I think it's starting to just be, very clear that women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses and just diverse-owned businesses as a whole, they're not going to get business because they're diverse, because they're women. They're getting business because they're bringing the best solution or product to the table. But what we have to do is make a seat for them and, do our part to increase education and awareness of, the services and products that they're offering. So it is by no means a corporate social responsibility effort. It is not charity. It is just, bringing awareness and, kind of opening our eyes and thinking differently and creatively about the products and solutions that we do have within our supply chains. It's a myth that we're constantly, looking to sort of get rid of at this point. But I think it's a valid point to bring up, but it's something that I know that I'm sure we all work extremely hard in our respective organizations to sort of combat.
Yeah, and I'll just add on. I mean, for us at Organon, we say we're looking for women-owned businesses that are fit for purpose. So it's not just finding because you're a women-owned business. And I think, being certified for us helps really, because that way we're also showing that we are intentional about including women-owned businesses. And that's why we're very intentional for the next 5 years, as part of our plan, is to increase our women-owned business. And generally, when I have conversation with any women diverse company, I always tell them, you don't always have to start out with, I'm a woman-owned business and I have all these certifications, because what we're really looking for is, and I always say, you're competing just like everyone else is competing. So really come with your solution, know your why, right? Know why you want to engage with Organon or with any of our other companies, or organizations. Know your why. And I think that is what will sell you. And then, by the way, I'm also women owned. And of course, we're going to come back to you and say, can you get all of these other certifications? Because that way we can show that, in all areas, that we are growing. And I'll just mention too, for Organon, because we do business with the government, we are required to do business with small women-owned businesses. Now, of course, that is more just, for the US and for Puerto Rico. But the fact is that there's requirements that we have to meet. And again, our global program still plays a major role. And the reason why we connect, of course, from a global perspective is because if you look globally, again, most women are certified as women or women-owned businesses, versus in other countries, I understand certification is different. And that is the reason why, again, we partner with WeConnect, because they have the global reach for us to come and say, hey, do you have a supplier in this space? So again, I think to what Elizabeth alluded earlier, it's not a requirement, but I would say, again, for you to make those connections and to get the assistance that you need to be exposed to the major corporations, then this is the place you need to be.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate your leadership, Cheryl. And I'm just recognizing we are almost out of time. So I want to make sure that Amber and Claire, do you have also a closing remark?
Yeah, sure. And I will, make this extremely, extremely short. Mondelez is a purpose-led organization, right? My team, we really are, we are trying to push within the organization to spend with purpose, right? And just really examining what that means within Mondelez, within procurement, and just with the entire business. And I think come with that means thinking differently, thinking creatively, being extremely critical about our supply chain. But it also means engaging in conversations like these. It means, listening. It means, really, taking the time to ensure that we're bringing value to our organizations, but that we're also bringing value to women and diverse-owned businesses everywhere. So, like I said, in the spirit of keeping this short, thank you so much for having us here today. And we're looking forward to just many more conversations around this topic, and, hope that when we, do regroup again next year and, and forward, that it's just more good results to share and more success stories.
I will end by just giving one statistic. So there is a study that has shown that organizations with over 20% women in management result in 10% more innovative revenue. So there is innovation in working with and exploring opportunities with women-owned businesses. Like I had mentioned earlier, encouraging that everyone joins the bandwagon. There is demand and supply, and it is when we create demand for diverse businesses and women-owned businesses, and the supply for diverse businesses and women-owned businesses, that we will be able to get to the apex of where we want to get. So encouraging all corporates to start their journey, all women-owned businesses to join WeConnect, and just be aware that out there are multiple opportunities for working with corporates who are on board the diverse supplier bandwagon. Thank you so much for allowing me to participate in this panel discussion.
Thank you, Cheryl, Amber, and Claire. We are so grateful for your leadership, and not just the talk, but the actions that you take every day to make this a more inclusive world. We have lots more questions that we cannot possibly answer, but there were some specific to, well, what's the role of men? And we just want to be clear. We love men. We understand the value that men contribute to creating this amazing world that we have. The challenge we have is that women are invisible as suppliers in these global value chains. 1% of the spend by large organizations is with women-owned businesses who own 1/3 of the world's businesses. And that is a gap that makes no business sense. We cannot afford to have half our population sitting on the sidelines. So men and women need to work together to build companies and to buy from each other. And then the world will be a better place for everyone. So just want to be real clear that this is a team effort, men, women, non-binary people, all working together to deliver solutions that help us get through this very difficult time. And once again, I want to extend my gratitude for the team at Envision, Dr. Bader, for your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Elizabeth and esteemed panelists. Just a quick remark that you can see at the bottom of the screen, the link where you can register at We Connect International. So this will make it easier for you to know where to go to be able to do your registration. Now that we've come to the end of this remarkable talk, I would love to extend a very sincere thank you to our distinguished panelists and to you, Elizabeth, and to We Connect International for your great support over the last couple of years. This has been an enlightening discussion, one that has left me with great insights and is bound to leave me thinking for days to come. I greatly appreciate the valuable time you have all given us today and can't wait to host you in more talks and discussions soon. As for our audience, thank you for your time. I hope that the talk today was as insightful for you as it was for me. Please let us know in the comments on our social media if you have any questions as well as any suggestions for upcoming topics. Thank you so much and stay tuned for our next episode.